Hello, London. I'm Matt Brown, and you're listening to a special edition of the Matt Brown Podcast. It's a show about all things local and maybe some other stuff too. I'll tell you all about it right after this.
Discover London Bicycle Cafe. It's the perfect time of year to take a break on their spacious patio, featuring craft beer, espresso drinks, snacks, meals, and more. London Bicycle Cafe at the Forks of the Thames. See you soon.
Okay, so today we're trying something new. It's a podcast that's inside of a podcast. Devon Peacock hosts the morning show over at 980 CFPL. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he hosts a political panel, and he invites me to join from time to time. And that's what we have for you today. Steve Cordes and I joined him to talk about the floor crossing at the federal level, as well as potential term limits for elected officials. This episode was originally broadcast on 980 CFPL Thursday, April 9th. It's also available as a podcast. You just have to search Devon Peacock, the morning show, wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, let's go.
It is time now for the morning panel. We are joined this morning by Steve Cordes, the retired CEO of Youth Opportunities Unlimited. I'm going to have to find a new title for you, Steve. I don't know if we want to keep going with that, but it's still...
Everybody struggles with it. So what is it?
What do I call you?
Yeah. I don't know. What do you call me, Devon?
Steve. I just call you Steve, citizen at large. Is with us today, and former London Mayor Matt Brown. Thanks to you both for coming in today.
Hey, thrilled to be here. And Steve has got a video blog. I think if anyone wants to just jump on YouTube and check out, is it Community Matters?
Community Matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And Steve Cordes, and you'll get an education.
Well, we could also, we got a vlogger and we've got a podcaster as well, the Matt Brown podcast.
With dozens of listeners.
Yeah, so, we can go the other way, too. We can give all sorts of different titles for you guys. Either way, I appreciate you both coming in today.
Glad to be here.
In a way, when you change, there's been a transition, from being the CEO to retired and, from politics to podcasting. There's that transition. We had a transition yesterday. With Marilyn Gladue going from the Conservatives to the Liberals. She is now the fifth opposition MP to join the Liberal caucus since last November. I guess just first off, your reaction to the news.
Well, I think she's making the biggest transition. Of all the ones we've talked about, hers will be the biggest. The idea of floor crossers doesn't really bother me. If my MPP did that after I voted for them, I tend to vote locally for the candidate, so I voted for parties I wouldn't think I want you to govern the country or the province, but I like you as a candidate and so on. And so if she's serving her constituents well, she'll continue to under a different banner.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I also would say that there's a lot of writing on the wall, and this really isn't a story about one single member of parliament crossing the floor. This is about a party that's in big trouble. I think that Pierre Poilievre lost his seat in the last election. He lost a huge lead, and ultimately his party lost the election. He was the prime minister in waiting, and all of a sudden he's right back as a member of opposition. You look at that, and then you look at his return to Parliament, finding the safest Conservative seat probably in the country on loan, because the person who gave up the seat is going to run in that spot again next election. And I think that what this says is behind the scenes, there's some stuff going on in that Conservative Party of Canada.
What I think is interesting is that this has been a slow burn, right? Like it started in November, then there's in December, and the way it happens sometimes, Michael Ma being at the Conservative Christmas party one night and literally the Liberal party the next time.
Well, that's two parties in 2 days.
I understand going to as many parties as you want, but that was incredible. But so then you have in January, and then we had March. So it's just been a slow burn. Like. You would think, I guess part of the question, which we can't fully answer, is like, when is it going to stop? Not because I want, but at a certain point you would think people have made up their mind, or maybe not. It's just the continued drip, 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 I think, has been a story in itself beyond just the floor crossing.
Well, it kind of speaks to a huge issue within that party, though, doesn't it? Because internally he's got so much support. But these folks got to be looking externally as, okay, he's our person for some reason. We are going to stick with our candidate. But the country is giving you a very different message And they're not listening to that so far. So this is 5 now, and 4 Conservatives, right? Or is it 5?
Four Conservatives, 1 NDP.
And 1 NDP. And so you got to think, you've got to sit back and take notice, because that's got to be a record. I don't know. I mean, periodically you get 1 or 2, right? I don't know that we've ever had 4 from a party.
So I was actually looking this up earlier, and so over the entire history of Canada, we've had about 40 have done it, about 43. Sir John A. Macdonald had 9 back in the 1860s.
Back in the day.
In the day. Jean Chrétien had 8, and that was at a moment of the national unity crisis with Quebec, right? And so a lot, though, in that case, came from Quebec. And then Mark Carney's now up to 5, might have more. And so, but he, in less than a year as being prime minister, has attracted 5 MPs. He would be, assuming they win the by-elections, he would be the first who got a majority through MPs crossing the floor, which is a distinction from before.
Right.
So it tends to happen in these moments of national, where people feel there's national importance going on.
Yeah, and speaking of Prime Minister Mark Carney, be careful what you wish for, right? Because if we do look at this specific member of Parliament, how she fits into the Liberal Party, I know they call it the radical middle, and it's a big tent, but some of her stances, for example, convoy or abortion restrictions, these are a real stretch for a lot of current Liberal Party members and current MPs. When you have a majority that is just over the line, then your backbenchers have got a lot of power. And so the more people who are kind of on the fringe of a party that you let in, although it might look like good on paper, those caucus meetings are going to be pretty raucous.
Yeah, well, and they're going to have a caucus meeting this weekend, right? Because their party convention where they're doing their policy conference. I'll be curious, because I've seen some reaction online, and you don't want to barrel to online, because the online, I think, especially Twitter, tends to not necessarily always be reality. But there are people who are upset online who are liberals,
right,
who are not a fan of Marilyn Gladu, which I think certainly is representative of some portion of the Liberal Party. But how much? I'd be curious what if the average person is looking at this, what they're thinking, and are they thinking more about that, or are they more on just the floor crossing side of things, and just the idea in general of a by-election that should be forced? Do you either think a by-election should be... Because Marilyn Gladu said back in January, or she supported the concept of an automatic by-election if you cross the floor.
Yeah, no, and she signed a document saying that's what she stood for. So I guess we see what happens next.
Yeah, apparently she likes the idea, but I don't know if the Prime Minister does. So.
Right.
And I personally don't either. I again, the candidate's in the office. The candidate's going to be making decisions for what he or she believes represents their constituents best. She's made that decision, and they'll get a chance to confirm that or not next time around.
Well, it's interesting, when we've seen when the Liberals leading up to Chrystia Freeland finally resigning, that's what led to ultimately Justin Trudeau resigning. Up until then, the party didn't have too much of a mechanism to get rid of a leader who was deeply unpopular. Now you see the Conservatives in a somewhat similar position. I always look over at the UK, and there was that one year, of course, they had like 3 prime ministers in the blink of an eye. But their backbenchers do have considerable sway within their party to influence how it goes one way or the other, which we haven't always seen in this country.
As do the Conservatives. Most recently, they've passed or agreed to a leadership review that can be triggered even a day after a convention like Pierre Poilievre went through. I believe it's 1/3 of the members of the party, MPs, mind you, can force another leadership evaluation. And so that could happen. I mean, I think that, if we lived in the world of could, then a lot of crazy things could happen, but it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, these days, a lot of things that could happen seem to be happening. It's kind of crazy days out there. But, I mean, so I guess, again, it's impossible to read the future. But I guess I'll put it this way. Not do you think it'll happen, but would you be surprised if we had more MPs from any party join the Liberals even after the by-election?
No. From what we're hearing, no. You look at the coverage, not at all.
Yeah, I think there's maybe another 9 names that are being kicked around. I certainly don't know them, but I hear about them when I listen to media coverage. People considering, moving over. And I think what would surprise me is Pierre Poilievre running as leader in the next election several years from now.
Yeah. Didn't his key communications person just leave too? And that's
Yes.
the
That's
person
right,
that was
this week.
helping him rebrand as man of the people kind of stuff. And so he'll be back to himself.
And her statement was that she was going to focus on things that she cared about deeply, which is a very clear message, I think, to things that she does not care about deeply.
That's an interesting comment, especially at this time where you're trying to rebrand the leader. So I want to talk a little local politics as well. 13 of the 15 members of London City Council have confirmed to 980 CFPL they will be running for re-election this fall. And this wasn't born out of city council, but I was having a conversation over the weekend with a friend and just talking about politics and term limits. And, it's interesting, like, and this is a different country, but in the United States, the president of the United States has term limits, which might be the most important political job in the world.
Yep.
But senator, congressman, nope. Prime minister, nope. MP, MPPs, MLAs, city councilors, mayors, wardens, nope. Like, there's no term limits anywhere. Are they a good idea? Are they not? I mean, you can sway me either way. What do you think? You're the Matt. We'll start with you.
I think that when we're kind of creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, because the electorate does a pretty good job of ensuring that there is turnover. I've always said that any kind of public service should never be a career. There should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And some of us who have served the public as an elected official have had the privilege of being able to decide when it was time to go. And some people, the public gives them a pretty clear message at job evaluation time that it's time to go. And so, I look at some of our long-serving members of council. Bud Polhill, eventually he lost his seat. Bill Armstrong, eventually he lost his seat. I see Anna Hopkins is running again. This will be her fourth term if she's successful. There will be an end to that time up in Ward 9 as well.
Steve?
I agree with Matt. I don't think there should be a forced term. I do get concerned about politics at the local level, though, just because voter engagement is just so low, right? And
that's the real problem.
I know, exactly. And so how much are people really looking at the candidates and saying, okay, this person has served me, my community, my ward well, and I'm going to vote him or her back in, or they haven't because they're not engaged enough. And I think that's the problem to solve, so that you make an informed decision. Are you voting for, pick on Anna? Anna, don't take it personally. It's just, are you going to vote for Anna because she's done a great job? Are you going to vote for Anna because, hey, I know that name and she's been around for quite a while, I think. So click on it again. That's the problem, I think.
It's a good point, right? And I think that if we look at the state of local media today, those who are still left, Devon, you're a shining example. But I walked past a newsroom that 10 years ago would have been hopping, and it's empty this morning. And I look at some of the other news organizations here in town, and they're a shadow of their former selves. The work is still incredibly professional. But when I think back to, 2010, Steve, you would have been there bringing delegations forward to City Council and Council chambers. There may have been 10 members of the media from radio, television, from print, sitting there watching council, holding them accountable and telling the community what's going on. Today, you're lucky to see one or two, and they're writing 3 stories that day, one of which might be local. So is that more of a need for term limits then, if there's less? I think it's more of a need for media, to be honest. I think it's more of a need for accountability, and I don't want to steal one of Steve's best lines, but it's more of a need for storytelling. What's going on out in the community and what's going on down at City Hall? It's $1 billion budget, and it matters. Right. I mean, right now we just given approved big increases on the premise that it's a full-time job, right? Yep. But we haven't clarified, what do we expect? What's the job description? What do we expect out of it? And we can't force people to make it a full-time commitment. So do we have any sense for how many of the 15 current councillors are already making it a full-time job and putting in a full-time effort, and ones that don't? That information is really hard to ferret out for the average voter who just wants to, give me in a nutshell, is my person doing a good job or not? When we look at the municipal level, I mean, I think one is if we go down to, speaking of, Marilyn Gladue, not strictly in Sarnia, but Sarnia-Lambton, Mike Bradley is maybe a bit of a unicorn in politics these days. He's been a mayor since the 80s, I believe, right? That's right. Do you think we'll see
mayors like that after he hangs them up, or is that going to be harder in the future?
I think what we saw in Mississauga and what we see down in Sarnia they're the exception. They're not the rule. These are personalities that the community, for whatever reason, really connects with and resonates with, and they find themselves with a job for life. But I think that's kind of like the chances of a 6-year-old hockey player getting into the NHL, right, and being a captain of a Stanley Cup winning team. So they're the anomaly. I do think that some of the conversations we might be having in this coming term, as Steve pointed out, the salaries have moved from about $66,000 to starting at $95,000 in the first year. I think capping out at just a councillor level, 102 or 104 by year 4. I think we'll be talking about how big should council be? Should there be 14 members of council? Should that be cut in half? You look at MPs and MPPs; they're serving over 100,000 constituents. And city councillors are serving between 20 and about 40 right now, given the boundaries that exist. So I think that's where the conversation might go.
In terms of this council, do you think, based on where we are politically, how might the overall climate impact the type of candidate Londoners are looking for? Do you think, like in terms, are people looking for the same thing locally that they might be looking for federally, where we see this coalition all together, or what are your thoughts on that?
There's so many the big hot items locally are, homelessness, right? Mental health and addiction. So some of the social challenges that we have in the community. And then on over to garbage pickups and what that does to people having more rodents in their neighborhoods and whether they're directly related or not. These are the things that are on people's minds, stuff like that. Public transit, ongoing huge issue, which then parks it as a different kind of issue than provincially or nationally, although they're all related. Government supports all this stuff. So I think people look at those kinds of things differently than their provincial or national representatives.
Yeah, I think oftentimes, locally especially, we don't vote governments in and individuals in, we vote them out. And so just because there's 13 current members of council running doesn't mean that 13 are going to return. They don't own those seats. They rent them. And if you think about themes, I'm not sure if a bona fide issue has emerged just yet. The election is almost upon us. The nominations open in May. But you think back to 2010, and that was really about change. And Anne-Marie DeSuco-Best had served for 10 years, and London was ready to move forward with Mayor Fontana. And, the next election was about the London plan and voting out the Fontana 8. 2018 BRT. I'm not sure what 22 is about. I mean, it had voter turnout of 25%, so that's pretty low. But what's the theme going to be for this election? And that's going to decide who's sitting in those seats come October.
Just real quick before we run out of time, do you think or do you hope? I guess we will all hope. Do you think voter turnout will be higher, or are people more engaged these days?
I think it'll be higher than 25 for sure.
Yeah, I just hope it's not a dead cat bounce, right? I mean, 25 is about as low as you can go.
Yeah.
High water mark municipally is about 45 to 50%. I hope we see it improve because really, we elect the government, so we deserve, I think, if voter turnout is that low.
Nominations will start in a couple of weeks. May 1st is when it all begins. Appreciate you both coming in today.
I'm looking forward to voting for you in the 26th election, Devon.
Not happening. Not happening.
And we'll be back to close out the show right after this.
Discover London Bicycle Cafe, home of family cargo and urban cycling. Test ride an e-bike along riverside trails to see how easy moving through our city can really be. London Bicycle Cafe at the Forks of the Thames. See you soon.
Okay, that's the show. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a special edition. I'm sure we'll do more of these down the road. Thanks again to Devon for hosting. It's always great to spend time breaking down current events with Steve Cordes too. Steve has a video blog that you might have heard about. It's on YouTube. You can find it by searching Steve Cordes Community Matters. And thanks again to CFPL 980 for allowing me to share this episode, and thank you for tuning in. As always, we want to hear from you. You can write to us at themattbrownpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you think. Tell us about a future show that you might want us to cover. And thanks everyone who's already doing that right now too. And That's the show. I'm Matt Brown, and you've been listening to the Matt Brown Podcast. It's a show about all things local and maybe some other stuff too. Thanks for listening. Bye for now, and talk to you again soon, London.